7 foods seniors must avoid to lose belly fat. Your diet is quietly aging your belly faster than any birthday ever could, and the most dangerous part is that most of these foods are sitting in your kitchen right now, wearing a health halo. After 60, your body is operating under an entirely different set of biological rules than it did in your 30s or even your 40s. Your metabolism is slowed, your insulin sensitivity has dropped, your cortisol spikes more easily, and your hormonal response to certain foods has fundamentally shifted in ways nobody warned you about. This isn't a willpower problem, and it was never a laziness problem, it's pure biology, and once you understand the mechanism, everything starts to make sense. Today, we're going inside 7 specific foods that are scientifically proven to accelerate belly fat accumulation in people over 60, and more importantly, exactly why your body reacts to them so differently now than it did decades ago. If you're over 55, eating reasonably well, exercising occasionally, and still watching your waistline expand, this is the explanation you've been missing. Food 1, fruit juice. It has the word fruit in the name, it says 100% natural on the label, and it's been sitting on breakfast tables for generations as the picture of a healthy morning, but fruit juice is one of the most deceptive foods a senior can consume. What you're actually drinking is liquid sugar, completely stripped of the fiber that would otherwise slow down its absorption, with nothing left to protect your bloodstream from the incoming glucose surge. A single glass of orange juice delivers roughly 26 grams of sugar into your blood in a matter of minutes, no fiber to slow it down, no chewing to trigger your satiety signals, nothing standing between that sugar and your pancreas. In a younger body, the resulting insulin spike resolves relatively quickly, but after 60, insulin sensitivity has declined by up to 40% compared to your 30s, which means more insulin stays elevated in your blood for much longer. Chronically elevated insulin is the single most powerful hormonal signal your body receives to store fat, and it doesn't store it evenly, it stores it preferentially in your abdomen, deep around your organs, as visceral fat. Visceral fat isn't just a cosmetic problem, it's metabolically active tissue that produces inflammatory compounds around the clock, raising your risk for heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and cognitive decline simultaneously. 1 glass of juice every morning, every single day, can contribute to meaningful visceral fat accumulation in seniors even when everything else about their diet looks reasonable. Eat the whole fruit instead. The fiber doesn't just slow sugar absorption, it completely changes how your body processes the meal. Food 2, white bread and refined flour products. Bread, bagels, white pasta, crackers, wraps, these refined flour products convert to glucose in your bloodstream almost as fast as pure table sugar, and the comparison is more alarming than most people realize. White bread carries a glycemic index of 75, while table sugar sits at 65, meaning white bread actually hits your blood sugar harder and faster than sugar itself does. But the deeper problem for people over 60 isn't just the blood sugar spike, it's what chronically eating refined carbohydrates does to a hormone called insulin-like growth factor, which directly promotes fat cell expansion specifically in the abdominal region. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that higher refined grain consumption was independently associated with larger waist circumference in adults over 60, regardless of total calorie intake. Read that again, it wasn't about eating too much, it was about what those specific foods were doing to hormones that calories alone don't explain. Swap white bread for genuine sourdough made from whole grains, or dense rye bread. The fermentation process in sourdough partially breaks down gluten and significantly lowers the glycemic impact in ways regular whole wheat bread doesn't achieve. Food 3, flavored yogurt. This is the one that genuinely surprises people the most, because flavored yogurt has been marketed directly at older adults for decades. Low fat, high calcium, good for your bones, good for digestion. Flip the container over and read the sugar content, and the picture changes completely. A standard 150-gram container of strawberry-flavored low-fat yogurt contains anywhere from 18 to 26 grams of added sugar that's comparable to a candy bar, sitting inside packaging that screams health food. Here's the metabolic trap that makes it particularly dangerous. Because it's labeled low-fat, your brain doesn't register it as a threat, but the added sugar triggers the exact same insulin spike regardless of what the label says. And because the fat has been removed, the fat that would normally slow digestion, the sugar actually hits your bloodstream faster than it would from a higher fat food. There's a second layer to this that most people never hear about. After 60, the diversity of your gut microbiome naturally decreases, and the beneficial bacteria that help regulate fat storage, inflammation, and blood sugar become less abundant. The added sugar in flavored yogurt actively feeds the harmful bacteria, accelerating the imbalance that's already happening naturally with age. Plain Greek yogurt, full fat, no added sugar, is a completely different food operating in an entirely different way inside your body. The live cultures feed your beneficial bacteria, the protein suppresses hunger, and the natural fat slows glucose absorption exactly the way it should. Food 4, margarine and vegetable spreads. For 4 decades, seniors were told that margarine was the heart-healthy choice and that butter was the enemy, and that advice caused measurable biological harm that researchers are still documenting. The original problem was partially hydrogenated oils, or trans fats, which were the standard in margarine formulations for most of the 20th century and into the 2000s. Trans fats don't just raise LDL cholesterol. Studies in primates showed that diets high in trans fats caused fat to physically redistribute from other areas of the body directly into the abdominal cavity, even without any increase in total calories consumed. Many brands have now removed trans fats, but modern vegetable spreads made from refined seed oils, soybean, corn, sunflower, create a different and equally serious problem. These oils are extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids, which in your body serve as precursors to inflammatory compounds, and the modern Western diet already has an omega-6 to omega-3 ratio of roughly 15:1 when the ideal ratio is closer to 3:1. Chronic low-grade inflammation driven by excess omega-6 is a direct upstream cause of insulin resistance, and insulin resistance, as you now know, is the engine behind visceral fat accumulation. Real butter used in moderation, or extra virgin olive oil, is the genuinely better choice for seniors. The science has shifted, and the old advice was wrong. Food 5, diet sodas and artificial sweeteners. 0 sugar, 0 calories, 0 consequences, that's the promise that has driven the diet soda industry for decades, and the actual research tells a completely different story. A long-term study from the University of Texas tracked adults over 65 for nearly a decade and found that those who drank diet soda daily experienced waist circumference increases that were 3 times larger than those who drank none, despite consuming 0 calories from the beverage. The primary mechanism runs through your gut microbiome. Artificial sweeteners, particularly sucralose and saccharin, significantly alter the composition of gut bacteria within just 2 weeks of regular use, disrupting the specific bacterial species that regulate glucose metabolism and fat storage. There's also a neurological dimension that amplifies the problem. Sweetness without calories confuses your brain's reward and satiety circuits, causing your body to anticipate incoming energy, prime an insulin response, and then receive nothing, a cycle that increases cravings for high-calorie foods later in the day. For seniors who are already managing blood sugar challenges and metabolic slowdown, this dysregulation compounds existing vulnerabilities in ways that make weight management progressively harder. Sparkling water with a slice of lemon, lime, or cucumber gives you the satisfaction of something other than plain water without a single one of these consequences. Food 6, processed breakfast cereals. Even the ones with whole grain stamped on the front of the box, because what matters isn't what's on the front, it's what's in the first 3 ingredients on the back. If sugar appears among the first 3 ingredients, you are holding a sugar product that contains some grain, not a grain product that contains some sugar, and that distinction changes everything about how your body processes it. Most commercial cereals, including brands specifically marketed as heart-healthy or senior-friendly, contain between 8 and 15 grams of sugar per serving, and most people pour double the labeled serving size without realizing it. But here's the layer that almost nobody talks about. These cereals are so heavily processed that the natural fiber structure of the grain has been completely destroyed during manufacturing. Even oat-based cereals that started as whole grain get extruded, puffed, or flaked in industrial processes that strip away the structural integrity of the fiber, and fiber integrity is everything. Because intact fiber is what physically slows the movement of glucose into your bloodstream. Processed fiber doesn't perform this function effectively, which means even the fiber-rich cereals are delivering a rapid blood sugar spike that sets up a damaging metabolic pattern for your entire day: elevated insulin in the morning, energy crash by midday, increased appetite by afternoon, and fat storage throughout. Steel-cut oats, not instant, not flavored, are structurally and metabolically a completely different food, same ingredient on paper, entirely different behavior inside your body. Food 7. Packaged soups and high-sodium foods. Belly bloat in seniors is frequently mistaken for belly fat, and excess sodium is a major reason why, but the real damage from high-sodium foods goes considerably deeper than water retention. High-sodium diets in older adults have been shown to increase the activity of the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, a hormonal pathway that, when chronically activated, promotes visceral fat accumulation entirely independent of calorie intake. Research published in the journal Obesity found that adults with higher dietary sodium had significantly more visceral fat on imaging scans even after controlling for total body weight, meaning the fat was there regardless of whether the person looked overweight from the outside. Packaged soups, canned broths, deli meats, frozen meals, and seasoning packets are the primary vehicles delivering excess sodium into seniors' diets without them ever realizing how much they're consuming. A single can of popular chicken noodle soup can contain over 1,800 milligrams of sodium, that's 78% of the recommended daily limit delivered in a single meal that most people consider light and healthy. As kidney function naturally and gradually declines with age, the body becomes progressively less efficient at excreting excess sodium, which means the hormonal and fat storage consequences compound over time and get worse the longer the habit continues. Read labels with one simple rule: target under 600 milligrams of sodium per serving for any packaged item before it earns a place in your grocery cart. The truth nobody told you. Your belly fat is not random, it is not inevitable, and it is not simply the result of getting older. It is a direct, measurable biological response to specific hormonal signals that these 7 foods are triggering every single day. Remove them one at a time. You don't need to overhaul your entire diet overnight, because that approach almost never works and almost always fails. Start with fruit juice, replace it with whole fruit for just 2 weeks, and pay close attention to what happens to your energy levels, your midday cravings, and your waistline. The biology is not complicated once someone lays it out honestly. The food industry has simply had every financial incentive to make sure you never heard it explained this way. Now you have, and that changes everything.